You cannot form a civilization on the ideals of liberty and the pursuit of happiness if they do not have the understanding of the natural law. And that idea that Americans have today is that the pursuit of happiness is the pursuit to do what you want, and liberty means the ability to do anything that you want. Well, what do you have? You have a people who choose to reject the natural law. Well, when people reject the natural law, they are no longer working in accordance with true and solid happiness. They're not pursuing true and solid happiness. What they're pursuing is exactly what is being said here. They're pursuing a cloak of malice. They are pursuing a liberty of self-ruin. They are pursuing slavery to sin. What is up, guys? Welcome back to Red Top Report Premium. We got Ronan with us today. He's behind the camera. Today, we are going to be talking about the pursuit of happiness in our Unalienable Rights series. I want to start by thanking all of you for becoming premium supporters of Red Top Report and to remind you guys to send all of this to your friends. This is the last episode of this series, but don't worry, we have more premium content on all the most controversial issues coming your way in the coming weeks. So, this is our Unalienable Rights series, obviously, and we like to review sort of what we've talked about a little bit going forward. And it's this beginning part of our Declaration of Independence that says all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, what I find so good about this is that we've pretty much covered the entirety of this sentence up until this point, where we talked about all men are created equal. We talked about the right to life, the right to liberty. And now, today, we're going to put a nice bow on top of it with the pursuit of happiness. Now, what I find probably the most important of the bunch when it comes to this subject is that it is very, very connected to our last video, which was about liberty. And so this is what the founders write in the Constitution about the pursuit of happiness. You have an unalienable right to the pursuit of happiness, obviously. Now, going back, where did they get this idea from, and what do they mean by the pursuit to happiness? Because I know, Ronan, just like we discussed in the video about liberty, what would you think the pursuit of happiness means, and what do you think the average American would think the pursuit of happiness means?
The pursuit to just kind of, be happy and be joyous and do what you like.
And do what you like, right, exactly. And that's not at all what the founders meant by the pursuit of happiness, by the way, and it's not at all what the person that they borrowed this idea from, once again, we talked about him a little bit in the last video, John Locke, had to say about it. Now, this is from his 1894 essay. He writes, "The necessity of pursuing happiness is the foundation of liberty, as therefore the highest perfection of intellectual nature lies in a careful and constant pursuit of true and solid happiness. So the care of ourselves that we mistake not imaginary for real happiness is the necessary foundation of our liberty." So he's being very clear here. He writes down, it's very clear, true and solid happiness. He's not talking about you just doing whatever you like. He's talking about something deeper and truer than that. This pursuing natural goodness, pursuing natural virtues, pursuing things that you are obedient to, like we talked about in the liberty section. How we are to be obedient to the law, the natural law. So when we look at it from that perspective of true and solid happiness, we can get a bigger idea of what he's talking about when he says pursuing happiness. It's not, once again, license, much like was being discussed with liberty. And he also says that this is the foundation of liberty. So if you want to look at it from a perspective of foundation, it's the foundation of liberty. It's the undergirding. It's the thing that builds it up. So everything in the last video can be founded on the idea of the pursuit of happiness. So this is one of the reasons I tell you guys to go back and watch the entire series, because it gives you the full picture. It gives you everything you need to know. So he goes on, anyways. The stronger ties we have to an unalterable pursuit of happiness in general, which is our greatest good and which as such our desires always follow, the more are we free from any necessary determination of our will to any particular action. Now, that's very important because this goes into what is meant by freedom. This goes into what is meant by liberty, as we were talking about in the last video. What he means is the freedom from, think about it like license and the state of nature where, where you're in danger, where there's, like predators that can jump out of the woods and like grab you and snatch you and kill you and stuff like that. You're leaving that and orienting yourself towards natural goods. You're freeing yourselves from the shackles of a lawless world, of a fallen world, and you're conforming yourself to a natural goodness that we know exists in nature. We're creating a state around that. We're creating a civilization around that. And that is precisely what Locke is trying to get at when talking about the pursuit of happiness specifically. Now, I wanted to include this last quote in the liberty section because I feel like it gives the flip side on Christianity. But because, as we said, the pursuit of happiness is foundational, I want to include this in the pursuit of happiness section because it's foundational to liberty. Now, this is from Pope Leo XIII, Immortale Dei. He says, the church cannot approve of that liberty which begets a contempt of the most sacred laws of God and casts off the obedience due to lawful authority. For this is not liberty so much as license, and is most correctly styled by St. Augustine the liberty of self-ruin, and by the apostle St. Peter the cloak of malice. That's in 1 Peter 2, verse 16. You can go read it if you'd like. Indeed, it is opposed to reason. It is a true slavery. For whosoever committeth sin is the slave of sin. Now, as we said, the problem with liberty was, so the problem also exists with the pursuit of happiness. You cannot form a civilization on the ideals of liberty and the pursuit of happiness if they do not have the understanding of the natural law as part and intrinsically connected to how the society views things. So when you have this sort of liberty and the pursuit of happiness in a country that Americans have today, and that idea that Americans have today is that the pursuit of happiness is the pursuit to do what you want, and liberty means the ability to do anything that you want. Well, what do you have? You have a people who choose to reject the natural law. Well, when people reject the natural law, they are no longer working in accordance with true and solid happiness. They're not pursuing true and solid happiness. What they're pursuing is exactly what is being said here. They're pursuing a cloak of malice. They are pursuing a liberty of self-ruin. They are pursuing slavery to sin and a lack of goodness. Now, obviously, a Christian society should take it to an even deeper level than that. Now, obviously, we have the free choice to choose Jesus or not choose Jesus. However, the state should represent the supernatural truths to us to the best of its ability, not through coercion, not through force, but through how it expresses itself. How it expresses, it's called soft power. There's hard power, there's soft power. Hard power is the military, economic sanctions, all sorts of government use. A country's soft power is how it projects itself to the world. It's how it projects itself to its people. And the way that we should be enacting soft power should be in accordance with the supernatural truths that our nation largely accepts. And this is a Christian nation, no matter what anybody says. It's by far the largest nation. Now, this is increasingly becoming less true because we have this disordered view of liberty and this disordered view of the pursuit of happiness. So, this brings a problem. And the problem is the founders codifying a deep Lockean understanding of the pursuit of happiness into the American ideal makes proper liberty extremely vulnerable to abstraction, which was the conclusion that we came to in the last video about liberty. Now, the pursuit of happiness being foundational to liberty, it leads to this. Although it's technically correct, it places the country on a path to equating license with liberty. The terminology is simply too broad of a usage. And here is a suggestion that we should make, and something that we could have put, as a placeholder for the pursuit of happiness as opposed to just the pursuit of happiness. Because once again, founders were really smart guys. They drew a lot from people who plagiarized Catholic authors on liberty and life and the pursuit of happiness, like St. Robert Bellarmine. And what you see here, Why did we not write the unalienable right to pursue what is good and is true, foundational to human happiness? And then, you could even add another line to that, in accordance with the natural law. So then there's a philosophical basis. What we have in the United States right now, because of the misunderstanding of liberty and the pursuit of happiness, is a nation that is entirely unsure of what philosophy it is to stand behind, of what it is to go under. And it's because we've lost what the founders were talking about in these unalienable rights, because the founders broadly wrote them in thinking that everybody in the country, which is mostly made up of people of average IQ or lower, to understand these very deep and very high-minded principles. So what do you get when that happens? You get dumb people, idiots, morons, trying to change the meaning of that country. And then you have actually dangerous people who have America's worst interest at heart coming down the pike and trying to manipulate those idiots and those morons, and making those idiots and morons go out into the streets and try to say that this is the representation of the American people and this is actually what the founders meant. And now we've gotten to a place where all perspectives are equally accepted, all theologies are equally accepted, everything is equal, everything is that and the other, all because of a misunderstanding of all of these unalienable rights and the principle that all men are created equal. Which, of all of the ones, the equality is the most incorrect by the founders. For the most part, they had a pretty good grasp on everything else. And as a country, just to conclude, because this is it. This is the end of the Unalienable Rights Series. Just to conclude everything and to put a ribbon on top of it, the misunderstanding is absolutely the fault of the founders. It's absolutely the fault of the founders for thinking that everyone was as smart as them, or thinking that everyone could be as smart as them, because of their misunderstanding of the equality. And because of their misunderstanding of the equality, instead we have extremely smart, deceptive, and manipulative people manipulating the average person, or morons, or idiots, to think false things about what this country was actually founded to be, what this country actually stood for, what the unalienable rights actually meant, what natural law actually means. And when you break it all down and you come to that peak and you realize that the American experiment has failed. But don't fret. There can be good done. We can reunify the principles of Christianity in the United States, because at the end of the day, because we chose the route of democracy, because we chose the route of constitutional republic, what we can do is we gave every single one of us a little bit of power and a little bit of influence to change things about the United States of America over great periods of time. This is why we harp so much about the family. We need to have kids, and we need to have more kids than they are having, or that they can import from the third world, to keep up with the morons, idiots, and deceptive, manipulative people. And when we do that, we increase our power. People are power in a democracy. And to restore the constitutional republic, the polity, the good version of a democratic, of Plato's republic, when we went over those in the previous series. That is how we restore power in a democracy. And a lot of people are probably, banging the war drum, saying revolution, saying this, that, and the other. We already have power, and we need to utilize that power. Yes, they can steal elections. Sure, if that happens, now we have a breakdown of the system. I understand those sentiments from people. There's a breakdown of the system. Nothing can happen. So we're going to have to see what happens with our elections in the future, whether or not they are all going to be stolen, or whether we can even still win it all. Trump 2024 is going to be a good indicator of that, in my opinion, whether or not the system has entirely failed or not entirely failed. I'm of the opinion that it already has, but we're going to have to wait, and we're going to have to see, and there needs to be more evidence of that. So in order to restore this country, utilize your power, evangelize. We transformed the Roman Empire as Christians through martyrdom, through strong, reasoned, philosophical arguments. We went out into the world. We weren't afraid to talk to the people. We weren't afraid to convince the people of the truth. And that is what us as Americans must also be doing, specifically American Christians, to make a nation that is truly founded on more than natural principles. And remember, we could even change the Constitution if we wanted to have a more accurate reflection that can't be so easily abstracted in the future if we simply build up the numbers over time and have the kids over time and cultivate the values in the kids over time. It takes time, but it's worth it. And guys, on that note, I think we're going to just wrap up this Unalienable Rights series. Ronan, what do you think so far?
I think I've learned a lot about the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and its origins and how it kind of contrasts with Christianity.
Yeah, you can compare and contrast. And like we said, like at face value, they don't work. However, when you look at it in context, when you look at it and what our country's founders actually meant, there's actually quite a bit of brilliance there. There's quite a bit of deep philosophical understanding. And with things like the right to life, they got stuff right that no one else had. At the time, there was an understanding, but it was never like codified like that before. So that was like an incredible addition to human flourishing. But at the end of the day, we have to unite our country with Christianity. We have to unite ourselves to the natural law that was created by the Catholic Church and accepted by Christian denominations that broke off afterwards. We are bigger than that. We need to have an identity. And our identity should be rooted in the only incorruptible thing that ever walked this earth, Jesus Christ. And we should be servants of Jesus Christ. And in being servants of Jesus Christ, we should be transforming our country. Being America first, as many people say, means putting the American people first. It does not mean accepting flawed ideas in a 250-year-old document, or not calling out flawed interpretations of those documents, for that matter. But at the end of the day, we have to stop the abstractions and we have to get specific. Thank you so much, guys, for joining us for the Unalienable Rights series. We have more premium content coming your way. It'll be there the next week, and you can get more great information. And please, please, please tell your friends to sign up. For as little as $5.99 a month, you can become a premium member for Red Top Report. It's very simple. Just tell your friends, and they'll start signing up, and we can keep bringing you guys this content. Have a good one, guys. God bless.